I want to spend more time helping others feel the level of happiness I feel, even in the most crazy storm and the most crazy things going on in my life. It's going to sound cliche, but happiness is a choice. I really believe that. For most people, it's a mindset thing, and you got to catch yourself from the negatives and how you look at everything as good or bad, and just learn to look at things as indifferent. I think for others, for entrepreneurs, is surround yourself with other people who challenges you always. Live a curious life. It's not what you say yes to that makes you successful, it's what you say no to.
Hey everyone, it's Tamara Thompson with Broadcast Your Authority, and I'm super excited for our next guest coming in from California today. I'm going to pass it over to my co-host, Layla, who's going to introduce our next guest. Layla, to you.
Thank you, Tamara. Andreas Pettersson is an executive leader, founder, and CEO with over 16 years of international experience in the technology sector. He's built companies from the ground up, led teams through rapid growth, and made a successful exit. Now, through his Leaders Adapt high-performance advisory, Andreas helps entrepreneurs navigate the journey from 7 to 8 figures while staying true to themselves. Having experienced the emptiness of a high salary, he's passionate about guiding others to find fulfillment and success.
I love that. And you just recently have some big news, right? Just Friday, right? Can you tell us a little bit more about this?
Yeah, so after working for almost 20 years in the corporate world, as of Friday, I am no longer employed in a W-2 role.
Woohoo! How does it feel?
It's weird. I was standing outside of here before, and I was telling a person that next week, when I'm used to getting a salary, I'm actually not getting one. And that's a weird feeling. It's a very weird feeling having it's very predictable, high income earner, and then all of a sudden.
But you played it smart, though. You actually started to formulate your current consulting, coaching aspect of a business that you're building before you actually left that role.
Absolutely. And I would say anyone who is considering leaving their corporate world should absolutely start building a side business first to understand how they can be successful and thereby build up the courage and face their fears to actually do it. So I've been coaching and mentoring people of diversity and women for almost 1.5 decades. And I've been helping them go from director to VP role, VP to C-level, or founders that are struggling with being alone at the top.
And you were doing this in kindness for quite a few years, right? Yeah. Before you actually thought, hey, maybe I could actually turn this into my own business.
Exactly. It comes all from my mother. I grew up just with my mother, and she is very much about everyone is the same, and you got to help people who don't get the chance in life. So I've been doing this pro bono. Some years I've helped up to 5 people at the same time. And it's actually been something that have taken quite some time for me. And as of earlier this year, I realized that my passion is in that. My passion is no longer in being a CEO. And everyone I tell I am leaving, they think I'm crazy. They think, why are you walking away from a very high paid job, the status, all the things you get from it? Just doesn't fulfill me anymore.
What are you most excited about for this next journey?
For me right now, it's about the individuals. I mean, my corporate world and what I build in the company for many years, it shifted from being very goal-oriented into moving people into their next career opportunity or leveling up employees as we were growing the company. It's the same thing here. My passion comes from when I wake up on a Saturday morning and someone have sent me a text message thanking me how some of the advice I gave them unlocked something in their business, or they dared to do something they were set out to do, or they should have done years ago, and they finally got the courage to do it. That for me is worth more than money, and it's a fulfillment I can't even describe.
Was there a tipping point that got you to go from all those years of doing it informally and just sort of mentoring people to saying, hey, I'm going to make the leap and dive into this full time?
Yeah, there was. It was actually during lunch with a group of friends and some colleagues at the time as well. And for years, I've been telling everyone else, you can have a great business idea, but unless you actually start charging for it, you have no clue if it's going to work in the real world. So they're like, well, eat your own dog food. Prove it to me. Prove that you can actually charge for this. We know you're successful doing it for free, but prove to me you can actually do it and make money on it. And I did. And
do it like the next day.
I'm very ADHD, and things happens very fast in my world. So that might have been the case. Officially,
you
that's
gotta
not
take action.
the case. I'm a very action-oriented person.
That's great.
If I have something I need to do and I really like and I want to solve it, I usually don't sleep that night, and I just do it during the night, or I wake up super early and I just get it done. I think action taking in general is the biggest issue that then leads to fear, because people not taking action and just prolonging what they already know they have to do, fear builds up, self-doubt, self-awareness is lacking, and so on. So taking action is how you change your mind and the trajectory of your company, life, everything.
You mentioned two key words that were quite interesting, the courage and the fear. You've talked about it. Is there a correlation between both? So you mentioned the fear, just said now, taking action, taking that leap. I mean, you're not going to have that paycheck. Some people may be feeling that, I mean, how can I do this? We're not having that paycheck. But talk about some of the conversations you're having or coaching with, if somebody is listening right now and saying, I have that courage and fear. How do I go about sort of building this together and managing those two sort of pieces? Is there a linkage to that?
I love this question. So I think that the biggest problem with fear is you can't think your way through the emotion and face it without doing. So it's back to action taken. The problem is that people build up this massive fear around something, and then they become stagnant. The fear absorbs them. And even if I give you the theory of redefining fear into unfamiliar, it doesn't change anything. It's unfamiliar, but it's still the feeling of fear. I always say take small micro actions, but do them every day consistently for at least 3 months, and then look back at where you came from. And when you do the small micro changes, they become larger and larger and larger over time, because as you are suppressing or recalibrating fear into unfamiliar, that's when I see people really believing in themselves. And then they take bigger and bigger and bigger leaps, and now they get the results from it, and fear starts disappearing. Confidence is coming.
Okay, so I know another man just like you who had been on top, a CEO, and stopped working all of a sudden. I'm just trying to understand, what is that one thing that happens at the top? So when you become a CEO, is it that you get that financial security, that you're no more worried about your finances? Is it that the feeling of achievement that, CEO probably is the highest level? After this, I can be either a founder, I can start my entrepreneur journey, I can be a mentor. Would that be the next stop up for you? Or is it some kind of an awakening that I can do this? And why everybody, after reaching to that level, they think about helping other people? What shifts in you, that you feel we are fulfilled here and now we can empower other people to do so?
So I just want to say one thing, and I'll be open and transparent about this. I'm not at a stage in my life where I have, I don't want to use a bad word, so much money that I don't care. I still have to work. So I'm still facing some fear in what I'm doing. Now, did all those years as a CEO make me become more financially set so I'm at a level where I can give back? Absolutely. But I still have to work and do what I am passionate about. I don't want to go and just collect a paycheck. I think what happens is, for me, I realized life is short if you don't know how to use it. So I reframe that as life is long if you know how to use it. And it's because of all the mentors I have had, all the people around me who have, either they have been therapists, psychologists, leadership trainers, it doesn't matter. But I saw the fulfillment in them. And I think that I also come from a country, we have a word for it, I come from Sweden. We have a word for it called lagom. Lagom means, there's no English word for it, but it's like just enough. And I think my mindset over the last few years, realizing life is long if you know how to use it, and I'm reaching that just enough in my life. I don't have to accumulate a ton of wealth for me to feel happy. The journey is inwards. So I think in my mindset, something shifted over the last, I want to say 4 or 5 years, where I want to give back. I get more gratitude in helping others. And I think by generating value and helping others, all the other things that people associate with success will naturally come to you. Does that make sense? Did I answer your question?
Sure. Yes.
And he said one word too that stands out to me the most is you've had your own mentors along the way. Like everybody probably on this panel has had some sort of mentorship, if it's a mentor, if you've joined masterminds, or if it's a coach, in any form of mentorship. We've all expanded our mindset significantly, where you take that large risk to step away from a high paying salary. I did a very similar thing. And then in a different company, and then went in and started a different company. But I was more passionate about the second company than I was this company over here. So I totally feel for you there. But when you have those mentors there, has there been somebody that's been really monumental that was like, you've got this, and they've got your back the whole time? Maybe you have multiple mentors on that. Who's helped you?
So for the last 7 years that I've been a CEO of this company, I usually have I always try to surround myself with at least 3 people. One that is a very leadership psychologist, one that is very focused on the private aspects of what goes up in this crazy head, and then one person that is more like a business mentor and a business coach. I do have one person, he is a leadership psychologist. He only works with, in Europe, he only works with, similar to Fortune 500 here in US CEOs. I got introduced to him very early in my leadership career. And that's a person I have been seeing every single quarter for the last 14 years. And that person, I said, there are few people I can go in and have a conversation with. And 5 minutes in, he punched me in my face, and I have no guard. I cannot defend myself. I just have to lean into the uncomfortableness and just be completely vulnerable and open, because if I him, he will literally say, he'll do, and he said, the conversation is over, and he will not talk to me. He will still take my money, but he will not continue the conversation, or he'll sit quiet. He did that once or twice early on. And after that, I know I don't have a choice. So it's radical candor, complete openness. His name is Mikkel Madsen. He's not on social. He doesn't want to be mentioned. And I don't even think he has a website or anything. He's purely referral, but he has been instrumental to my mindset for a long time. I do want to add one more thing. For the last 5 years, he has really been training my resilience in general, especially because I ended up getting heart issues, and I will tell the story very briefly, but I basically ended up in the ER, thought I was dying. It just showed it was AFib, and it was basically an electrical problem. But I had a mental moment where I basically gave up and surrendered, and that I was dying. Back to Michael. So from that, I had to learn to live with a heart problem that increases my likelihood for a stroke significantly. Mm-hmm. And I still have it. He have worked with me on resilience and very stoicism philosophy as a mindset. And that have completely transformed the way I've been as a CEO and how I look at any obstacle or anything negative in life.
I think there's 2 keys in what you're saying. One is that resilience, and then the second is that willingness to be uncomfortable. Yeah. 2 things that are just so hard for us to do. It goes back to the fear and the courage. There's these key words in what you're saying that seem to be critical elements that have contributed to you being willing to lean into the next thing, be uncomfortable, be successful. Lean into the next thing, be uncomfortable, be successful. You had mentioned earlier when we were talking about a 7-figure trap. Can you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, so I just want to say, absolutely. I just want to say one thing, Leila, that and a little cultural provocative here, but in Europe, it's seen as a positive thing as a man who will be able to say, I'm vulnerable, I'm open, I have feelings. And especially when you're working with your mentors, you have to go in and just leave your heart on the platter and talk and be open and transparent. Because if you don't do that, you will not get exponential growth. And my goal in life is to live 1,000 years by the time I die through others and their experiences. So the 7-figure trap that I see happening to a lot of founders, a lot of CEOs all the time is they keep working so hard and grinding to get to that 7-figure salary or making $1 million or few $1 million in revenue. And when they get there, it's like poof, the moment just pass and they don't get any fulfillment. They're the same person again. And now they go, okay, I must get to 8-figure, I must get to 10 million. Because if I do, then everything is going to change. And guess what? Nothing changes. The thing is, because the society is so focused on making people laser focused on just the revenue and the numbers and what their net worth are. Instead, they should look inwards. They should try to understand who they are, what are their core values, what are their strengths, what fulfills them, how do they want to live their life, what's their North Star, what's their why. And if people don't go through that journey, they're going to get to 10 figures. They can get to 9 figures, and they will still be brilliant assholes. Like, they are just going to keep grinding. So I think the journey has to be that you have to start understanding who you are. Now, when leaders do that, they become amazing, because the more a leader understands of who they are, the better they are equipped to lead others as well. So now they're actually elevating their entire company, all their employees. And growing people tend to create growing organizations. And the opposite is also true.
In a different episode of the show, we were talking about how the CEOs step in and they just have this very specific role in certain ways, or they think a certain way. But when they step in as a leader and visionary, you're training other leaders within the company and things like that. And then the whole shift of the company can go that way. What do you think entrepreneurs can do to shift from that chief problem solver to a more of a visionary leader?
Yeah, so they have to change their pattern. And I see these entrepreneurs over and over again, and founders who they were successful getting to 7-figure by just focusing on always solving the problems, always being there for the customer. But the thing is, that doesn't scale. And I've seen it happen over and over and over again. I've experienced it myself. A founder who doesn't understand that you have to delegate and elevate your team, they will just remain the chief problem solver in any organization. And guess what happens then? People don't feel they have a career opportunity. People don't feel they can grow in this company. And slowly you will see the A players start moving and the B players taking on more and more responsibility, which just proves for the founder that, hey, the strategy is like, why I'm in this mess. And now you're in a constant circle. I have to solve more problems. Oh, I have to do more and more and more and more until they burn out or they fall out of love in their business. Instead, I really believe that finding, at least if you are a smaller company, I want to say 1 to 2 people you can truly delegate to, you truly can trust and build up over a longer time frame. And if you can do that, you can find an amazing operator, an integrator, whatever you want to call it. But you have to find that early and you have to delegate to them. And then what I see people do, the biggest mistake when they hire them and they don't have mentors and coaches or other people who have lived it before, they want often the person that they're hiring to create structure, processes, and operations to become the problem solver in an ad hoc, scrappy way. And then they get frustrated on them and they often end up firing the first hire they do. And they have to go through this process a couple of times before they understand that the problem often lies within them.
One of the things that I find is interesting in some of the conversations we were having is that you have a tech background, technology background, and you must also, mentor and coach maybe other tech leaders, because we do know that some of the biggest companies now have a strong technology leader. For a tech leader, what are sort of the trends you see that can be consistent with tech leaders in what you've mentioned through, in delegation? You've also, I think, talked at some stage about relationships. Is there some current trend, number one, that you see some of those tech leaders need to break because obviously they're leadership of people? And do you think that some of the leadership training is missing some gaps in how we're doing some of these leadership? So from a technology standpoint, what are some of the current traits? And then are there any leadership training you think that needs to really change how we're building these leaders overall?
Yeah, so I want to answer your second question first. 1,000% leadership training is absolutely missing here, especially in US, in North America, that have a bigger focus on emotional intelligence and understanding yourself. In Europe, like I mentioned before, it's much more common that you focus first on your personal and private aspects of who you are and how you show up in a professional context. Here in US, you give training. You don't give a holistic journey for the leaders. So especially within technology, where you have a lot of engineers, and this is going to sound bad, and I will probably piss off a few people here, engineers have a raw intelligence, and they judge success and skilled people based on raw intelligence. What they're missing is to judge them on emotional intelligence. And a lot of engineers tend to think everything is black and white. It's either like this or it's like that. So either you are exceptionally good engineer or you're a salesperson. That's typically the two categories you go in, sales and marketing, or you're an engineer. I think breaking that pattern and realizing everything is a grayscale or gray zone, realizing that when they're hiring, they should be hiring for diversity of thought, diversity of education, background, ethnicities, all these things. Because once they start breaking that mindset and not try to make everyone the same and not judging who will be a good leader based on their technical skill set, but rather on how sophisticated they are from an emotional intelligence, self-awareness, and leadership background, then you get much, much better outcome in tech companies. And sadly, not the case.
Good business opportunities. That's why you're going to be successful in your consultancy business, right?
Same here, Lawrence.
Extension to this question, like for a lot of entrepreneurs, like for my kind of work, I had been in running a dance company to running a yoga company. So if I have to put it this way, break it down for you, I'm the product. If you understand, I'm the product, but I'm the brand as well. So what any entrepreneur should keep in mind that they don't just become chief problem solvers, but they manage, grow, and safeguard this intellectual property. At the same time, they delegate.
Yeah.
How do we do that?
So unless one down scale, and I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs be successful being 1 to 3 people, but if you want to truly build a business, you don't have a choice. You have to delegate. And trust, but verify. So I think a lot of people are told in leadership training, you got to trust your employees. And what many people then think, oh, hands off. I'll just delegate and I don't have to touch it. I don't believe that at all. I think you have to trust the person you're delegating to, but they have to be able to have the free range to run themselves. But it's so important that you also validate what's going on and set clear expectations on communication and what you expect from them. And if you don't do that, you're going to prove the thing that goes on in your brain, which is I can't trust people. People are stupid. I'd rather just do it myself. But that's because you're portraying that image yourself often. I'm not saying you, but a lot of leaders do. They portray this is going to fail, and they set it up for that. And again, start inwards, not outwards.
Well, I understand, because it comes from a very emotional, from a point of view, because you have started the company, you're the founder, you're the entrepreneur, you are ready passionately to take care of this baby. So yeah, I get your point. I got my answer.
I think it also depends on what type of company you're really building, right? Like, what is it that you're really passionate about? Are you that individual and leader that's in the business, that's working the business? You are the face of the business and brand, or are you building to scale a company where you're looking to build, to scale, and sell, right? Like the leadership aspect that you're talking about, like when you're the leader in the company, you want to lead your team. You want them to feel comfortable. You want them to learn from you. You lead by example so that they're not feeling lost through a process of onboarding or, things like that. It's like you can pass it off. You know, watch these training videos, but if you're not really like showing that you care in some form, that's what with our own agency, that was one of the biggest things that we learned when we had to scale very fast at one point. And it was all about leading the team, training the right people, trusting those people to then train the next set of people, and then so on. So you're building these project floors, project floor managers that then managing the project manager under there and things like that. But it all stems from that leader, that CEO. And if they don't see themselves as a leader or a visionary, or they don't have that bigger picture that they can paint to everybody else, everybody's going to get lost. I think that's one of the things that I've seen is when you give people like the confidence to step up and say like, hey, I have a suggestion. I want to bring it to the table. Like there's a true leader. Like, yeah, I'd love to hear your suggestion. Let's bash ideas, let the team say what they want to say. Even if you don't fully agree with what they're saying as a team, at least you've let them be heard.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that makes it hard for our entrepreneurs to do that is control. They are so used to control being the way that they keep everything exactly the way they want it. They believe in the way that they do things. That's what got them to be successful. And so I'm curious, Andreas, how do you mitigate that? Yeah. How do you, all of the prescription that you're giving sounds amazing. How do you balance that with an entrepreneur's drive for control?
They have to fail. I hate to say it. I have yet to figure out how to tell an entrepreneur that their recipe of success is the wrong one.
The failing forward or the falling forward.
So there are very few people who actually listens and are willing to change something that is already working. Because the mindset from day one is, if it's not broken, don't fix it. But it's going to be broken. And instead you have to look at other things. Do you have harmony between your work-life balance? Are you feeling fulfilled? Are you still in love in your business? Do you really have the passion to wake up at 4 a.m. to go that extra mile? If those signals are there, you have to change, even if the revenue is there. Don't wait till your company have been growing and plateauing. And now, because I believe a company is always either growing or going down. The plateau is just temporarily before you go down again. So unless you have taken the right change initiatives and you plateaued because of that, and you will believe in it, then the growth will come. But if you don't make the right change initiatives, it's going to start fading because all of the science I just said.
Yeah.
There's also a piece that obviously we always hear as well, is that a company is always only as good as its people. Mm-hmm. And you spoke to that as well, saying that leadership in Ein is called a hub and the spoke. The hub is the leader, the spokes are the different people. But you mentioned as well diversity. Are you seeing some of these companies that you are coaching, are they introducing diversity in terms of some of the people they're hiring, number one, a diversity of thoughts, diversity of different backgrounds, diversity of colors, and also how are they managing in that? And, we have a discussion that's going here. We have a diverse panel, actually, that's quite diverse, and we're having good conversations to bit. So how do you see the diversity aspects in terms of helping to have that founder still willing to grow? Do they value that diversity you're seeing?
So first of all, I've been fortunate. Every single person that I'm currently working with or coaching, except one, is a person of diversity. So it's easy for me to convince them that diversity is valued. That's true. Historically, and I can't quote research that have been done, but Stanford have done a bunch of studies on this that proves that the more diverse you make a team, the more innovation you will come from it, especially in the tech sector. And research upon research show that. I believe as a white man that I have a responsibility to drive that question forward. And I believe it's so important that I do that and that others should do it as well. Because I have seen it firsthand. When you have true diversity in a company, you not only get the innovation and the revenue results, but you get a culture and a tolerance and a happiness within the company where people love the company they work for. But I've also seen the opposite. And it works for a while, but not forever. Did I answer your question?
It did. Thank you. Thank you.
I could continue this conversation all day. Let's close on this question. What does true success look like to you?
It's going to sound weird.
I'd like to hear.
Personally, I will do personally, and then I will give a recommendation for others.
Yeah. First question, what does true success look like to you? And on the side of like, how can entrepreneurs redefine it on their own terms? I'd love to hear that too.
So for me, I believe that if I stay curious for the rest of my life and I lay on my deathbed and my last words are questions about how machine works or why one person said one thing in the room when another didn't say it and so on, I believe I have maximized life because I kept an open mind. I learned something until the moment I died. If I keep that mindset, I think I will die happy as a result of that choice now.
How would you describe what your North Star is?
The happiness, the best thing, there are two things that are happening in my life that are absolutely the best things. So obviously having children and a wife and all of that. But having a near-death experience early in my life and accepting that death is the only true thing that will happen in life. And number two, I have a child that has autism. My North Star from those two experiences have been, I want to spend more time helping others feel the level of happiness I feel, even in the most crazy storm and the most crazy things going on in my life. Because it's going to sound cliche, but happiness is a choice. I really believe that for most people. And it's a mindset thing, and you got to catch yourself from the negatives and how you look at everything as good or bad, and just learn to look at things as indifferent. And I think if you choose happiness as the outcome, you will live a happy and fulfilled life. I think for others, for entrepreneurs, is surround yourself with other people who challenges you always, live a curious life, and try not to, it's not what you say yes to that makes you successful, it's what you say no to.
I think that was the best answer to close out on, actually. I was thinking like, why didn't we ask this in the beginning? But I was like, it was the perfect end question of that. For those that are resonating with you and they're watching this show today, can you share a little bit more about your journey and how they can connect with you and how they can find you?
Yeah, so I am Andreas, the CEO on all social media platforms. You can also go to leadersadapt.com. The best way to reach out to me is actually through Instagram and direct messages. I answer all the questions myself. I love when people reach out and say, hey, can't you do a reel about this or that? So please, please, please reach out to me.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. Definitely follow him on Instagram. I actually checked out your stuff and I was like, I like this stuff. So I'm like, follow. But yeah, so, again, those of you that resonated with his story, be sure to connect with him, check out what he's doing, and really think about it. Have you found your North Star? I appreciate all of you that are watching this episode, and we'll see you in the next one.